Hey everyone, I'm Jay, also known as jaynemesis on eToro, where I trade as a popular investor. This is our weekly update for week 13. Before I get any further into the video, I wanted to address some of the changes in how I'm creating these updates. So we got some feedback a few weeks ago suggesting that we needed to write down more of the content that I'm creating and effectively write it in the post that I'm posting this update in. So we did that, and then following that, we got some more feedback saying that the content between the video and the update wasn't quite similar enough, and there are a few discrepancies. So hopefully we fixed that this time. So the format's slightly different. Let me know what you think. So our overview for the week. Weekly stats down 1.88% on realized profit. 22 trades closed in total this week. Our top news is Coinbase listing ERC20 tokens. The TON ICO raised over $1.7 billion so far. That's the Telegram fundraiser. And Ripple has joined the Hyperledger. So just touching on those points quickly, because the format has now changed. Coinbase listing ERC20 tokens. Basically, we don't know what tokens they're listing yet specifically, and it's very unlikely that they will list all ERC20 tokens. But I imagine that some of the long-standing ICOs that were run on Ethereum a while ago will be listed on Coinbase pretty soon. We don't know how long. They're going to go to GDAX first, so if you want access to them quicker, then there's a good place to go. And of course, if you accidentally sent any tokens to your Coinbase Ethereum wallet in the past, not knowing that you wouldn't be able to receive them there, you may now be able to get access to them. Not right now, but when they eventually implement this further. So that's some pretty good news for the market overall, and great news for Ethereum. TON raising $1.7 billion. This is pretty crazy. I'm actually working on an ICO review for this at the moment, so I don't want to kind of give away my opinion on it too much, I guess. But this is one of the biggest ICOs ever, and it hasn't actually released publicly yet, the tokens. So currently, this is all raised from private pre-sale ICOs, basically. So big investors that are putting in, 100 million, 50 million, however much they're doing. So this makes it one of the biggest ICOs in all cryptocurrency history. And TON obviously is created by Telegram. So very, very big crypto user base already using Telegram. So it would be interesting to see where this goes. Ripple joins Hyperledger. So what is the Hyperledger is the first question, I guess, that many of you may be asking. Hyperledger is a project that is currently run by IBM. It's backed by the Linux Foundation and a bunch of other big companies and organizations in and around technology. Interestingly, they also work with Stellar. So Ripple have joined it as well. They work with a bunch of banks. This doesn't really necessarily mean anything too much. It just kind of means that Ripple can integrate a few things into the Hyperledger system effectively. So we'll see if anything substantial comes from this, but I guess it could be seen as potentially bad news for Ripple or good news, depending how you look at it. Maybe they're slightly giving up on XRP and they're looking to integrate some of their other services that don't utilize XRP into Hyperledger instead of into their own system. Or perhaps they're doing it to allow banks that are using Hyperledger's technology to connect into the Ripple network and use Ripple. We don't know at the moment. I'm purely speculating, but an interesting development either way. So on to our crypto recap. This week has been an interesting-ish week for cryptocurrencies. They stayed flat for most of the week, but they've kind of dropped a little bit lower to the point where I'm now a little bit concerned about a couple of them. So let me kind of go through my thoughts on it. First of all, Bitcoin. So I've actually been increasing my exposure slightly to Bitcoin and buying the dip. But this is effectively funded from taking on board the losses from last week in a few other cryptocurrencies, which most notably was Ethereum and Litecoin. So Ethereum has faced a bit of a crackdown on ICOs recently, and it seems like it's plausible that more could come. It's not so much a crackdown on Ethereum especially, or even that the regulations are that unreasonable, but certainly with less ICOs out there, it seems likely that there'll be less money floating around in Ethereum waiting to invest in those ICOs. On top of that, obviously, you have the pressure from EOS and Cardano and some of the other projects that are offering similar services to Ethereum, even Stellar. So, yeah, it doesn't paint a terribly strong picture for Ethereum. And since it's currently my second largest crypto position, I actually plan on closing potentially a couple more trades here as well, which would be at a loss. Ethereum currently is just under $400 as I'm making this video. And from the technical analysis that I've looked at, it seems likely that if we drop below around the $350 mark, there is a high probability that we could drop as low as maybe $260 or so. So as a result, I am planning to perhaps close out a couple more positions and reduce exposure. I will always keep some exposure to Ethereum for the foreseeable future, at least, as I think it's a pretty good cryptocurrency to be holding. And of course, diversification is always a good thing. Litecoin is in a kind of a similar position to Ethereum. There was a lot of hype around LitePay that personally I didn't really get involved in. But the recent news about LitePay, stopping and halting whatever their project was, I guess, has seemed to have taken more of an effect on the market than I anticipated. So the market has dropped substantially on Litecoin already. I only had 2 positions, but I closed one position, and I'm considering closing another one as I think a drop down to maybe sub $100, maybe even as low as like $85 is possible. So I'll keep an eye on it. I'm not saying I will or I won't, but I'll have a look at the charts and see where it goes. Stock recap. So this week I've done reasonably active trading, actually. A lot of very opportune trades, especially in Snapchat, which I guess will be the first one that I talk about. So Snapchat I've been pretty bearish on for a very long time, and it's presented me with quite a few nice opportunities to short it. I've been kind of dipping in and out pretty regularly, and actually while I'm recording this, I closed a couple more earlier this afternoon. So yeah, Snapchat's been doing well in terms of some quick returns for pretty low exposure time. So good stuff there. Nvidia, First Solar, SolarEdge, and Microsoft. So I've closed a bunch of positions in all of these to take some profit. This is pretty much due to my more long-term strategy, I guess, as the markets have turned more bearish, to try and reduce my exposure to long positions in the stock markets at the moment. So obviously the first step that I would take in this is taking profit from the things that are pretty profitable. And all 4 of these have done very well for me over the past few months. So I figured that I'd close a few more. And, I may look to dive back into a couple of them, especially First Solar and SolarEdge, as prices drop, and potentially, trade some of the bounces as the markets struggle. AMD has been an interesting one. I've been trading AMD super actively for about 6 months now, as it's been stuck in this range between around $10 and $12 or $12.50. But recently, the news of the vulnerabilities has really pushed the price down, and of course, with this bear market as well, we are now sitting at the very, very bottom of that range, just under $10, which makes holding AMD quite risky. So I've currently closed, I think, 1 or 2 positions. I may well close a few more. These would be red positions, but I just think that it's very risky if we fall out of this range. It could be a lot more difficult for me to predict where the price is going to go and actually trade in and out, or try and turn some of these trades into a nice profit for us. So instead, I may take a few losses just to kind of reduce exposure. And obviously, this still helps with reducing exposure during a moment where the markets are looking pretty uncertain at the moment. I did one trade in Square this week, which was a trade that was only about 1 hour and 45 minutes or something long. I turned a 2% profit. Nothing special. Don't read too much into it. I'm not performing loads of fundamental analysis on Square, but I just saw a really good opportunity, so I figured I'd take it. And finally, silver. So I closed a silver trade. Silver is probably going to be a pretty common hedge during the next few months while the markets are unstable. I've actually just reintroduced it to my portfolio at a higher price than I closed this for, unfortunately. But yeah, occasionally, if it's in green, then I will take some profits from it and potentially look for better entry points. So that's basically what happened here, except that this time I didn't get a better entry point. So it happens. On to our realized trading stats for the week, the most exciting part of the video. Total trades closed 22, profitable trades 14, unprofitable 8, which is quite high. Again, that's primarily due to de-risking, basically, and starting to reduce exposure just a little bit to the equity market. Our average trade size was 0.9%, so we've gone up a little bit, but we're still just below that 1% that I like to be at. Average trade profit was a bit higher, so up to 3.12%. Average trade loss, minus 26.16%. Again, that's due to the closure of the Ethereum and Litecoin positions and AMD. And the most traded instrument was Bitcoin with 4 trades, and total profit or loss in this case this month was 1.88% loss. So again, not super duper, but again, it's very, very important, I think, for you guys to realize as we look at the number on this screen that it is very different to the number that you will see on my stats page, and that's because the stats shows my drawdown. Drawdown is not realized losses, so effectively until you see it written on here, it hasn't technically happened, I guess. It has happened, but it's not realized. So yeah, take the numbers on my stats page with a bit of a pinch of salt. You've got to kind of stay level-headed, read my updates. If you have questions, ask away and I will try to answer them for you. So where does that leave us in terms of performance? And of course, this is looking at drawdown statistics effectively. This includes all of my open trades, so that's why the numbers here are very different to the last slide, as I just mentioned. So as we move forward another month and move into April, we closed out March at minus 19.51%, which is, I think, my worst ever month on eToro. I mean, I don't know what to say about that, really. It's really pretty saddening that I couldn't make more of the bear market and perhaps react more quickly and more decisively, I guess, to some of the situations. I think I got a bit unlucky with some of the risk score issues I've been having, so I was trying to make sure that I remained low risk at the same time. So I wasn't able to buy some of the dips that happened during this drop, but we are where we are, and we're now in a much healthier state in terms of risk on the portfolio. So hopefully April should go substantially better. And I mean, I also do genuinely believe that we are pretty much at the bottom on the crypto drop. So this is about as drawn down as we should ever get, touch wood. But yeah, April's a new month, so let's try and make some good profit. So what's coming up? Well, as I just mentioned, we're going to be switching to a more bearish outlook for the portfolio. So this means I'm going to be holding more commodities such as gold and silver, which are generally slightly less correlated and more commonly seen as a good hedge against poorly performing stock markets. I'm currently shorting several indices in the US, as well as actually the FTSE as well. And they've performed today, actually, is the day that they've performed really quite well and turned from red to green. So we're making profit while the markets are dropping, which is always good. We are also shorting Facebook and oil. Facebook, as you know, has been through a lot of crazy stuff recently. So we're shorting them at the moment, and I'm hoping to get a good return. I'm more than happy to continue holding these shorts basically until the earnings period. Oil, again, is more of a long-term play. We'll be buying the dip on some of the stocks. I know that I use that phrase an awful lot, but at the same time as the markets have been dropping and we are moving money into some of our shorts, eventually we will have to turn some of those shorts back into longs again. And there is some good potential in some of those stocks that I regularly trade, such as AMD, for example, for us to potentially get some really nice prices and increase our positions ready for when the market recovers. But this will be a more gradual thing. And of course, we'll be hodling our crypto. As I said, we're pretty much fully exposed to crypto for the most part. I will be switching around a few positions in Ethereum, possibly into Dash and Bitcoin. But overall, it'll remain largely unchanged. So we're just going to ride along the bottom and wait until the market starts heading back up for us, which I think it will do. So that's it for this week's video update. Let me know what you think of it. It's a little bit more wordy, it's a little bit longer, but hopefully it gives you a slightly better overview of what I've actually done trading-wise, some of the trades that I've really, closed this week and some of the trades that I've opened this week. Let me know what you think. And of course, if you wish, you can read the full written version as well on eToro. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.